Okay, so the exercise is to take this text from Little Red Riding Hood, from an imagined version of Little Red Riding Hood. It's got one narration box. It's got two pieces of dialogue, one from Red, one from the wolf, and then another small narration box, right? So that's one single word. This is a little longer, this narration box. And then I got a good look at her eyes, and I had a flicker of thought. My, comma, what big eyes you have, grandmother, comma. Better to see you with, child. Okay. And so the experiment, the exercise, is to block this out 3 different times, trying different things. And it might be, and first of all, do it the size you normally draw. So if a panel, is roughly this size normally for how you draw, then block it out that way. You can go a little longer or wider, but start from there, and all we're going to do is the shapes. I know that we've got, our biggest shape is actually probably this narration box, and then this piece of dialogue is a little bit bigger than this one, and this narration box is pretty small. So I'm going to write down a couple ideas about how to visualize it. One is maybe an exterior of the house. Maybe one is both characters. And maybe one is one character. Character. I'm going to try right now to fit in both characters. And what I'm going to do is try and fit in that narration. I'm going to do some traditional things, like usually that narration box is sort of up here.
Cheese pizza.
And a piece of dialogue. If I said I'm going to put both characters in here, I'm going to have Red leaning in maybe here. I'm going to have the wolf smaller. Here's the teeth and stuff. Bed. Blankets. And again, we're just roughing things in. Now already I'm wondering if I've done this correctly. Can I get this text? And then I got a good look. Oh, my, what big eyes you have, grandmother. Can I get that in here? My, what big eyes you have, grandmother. I think I'm actually going to need a little bit more room here. And then that wolf's balloon is probably going to go here. The better to see you with, child. And then another narration box. So that is good enough for exercise 1. And again, loose roughs, but the idea is that we are planning everything at the initial stages. Narration box 1, dialogue box bubble 1, dialogue bubble 2, narration box 2. We're fitting it all in there. And so we'll try that 3 different times. 1 with an exterior, 1 with both characters, 1 with one character. And after that, we'll work one version up to finished lettering and see how our estimations were. So now we're going to work up our lettering. I've got one of my versions here. I've got some ruled paper, which will help me sort of guide my letters. And I've got a white piece of paper here, and what I'm going to do is trace. You can choose whatever way you like. All we're going to do is concentrate on the lettering of this in this instance and see if we can fit it in there. The lettering is what we've got here, and Red's narration is, and you know what, I think I should do this twice. I'm going to get the lettering on a rough piece of paper first, on the over top of the ruled lettering, and see if I can get it. A good sense of how it's going to fit line by line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace on another piece of paper my panel. And actually, that panel is pretty good. This sort of thing here is pretty good. I'm going to go a little longer. And I'm seeing that the amount of text I need probably is larger than I thought I needed. So I'm gonna have to budget for that either by drawing bigger or making the drawing smaller. And you know, that's learning the hard way maybe, because I don't really want to make the drawing smaller. But I'm gonna sort of put it up here, I think. I could also make the lettering smaller. Did I say that? And then I got a good, and notice I'm changing based on the letters, the shape that I originally set for my panel, my dialogue. A good look. Oops, now I'm going to trace at her eyes and eye. Now I can see right now that I'm only going to get had in there on this line. That's okay, that's why we do this for planning. But flicker of a thought I can fit. Flicker of a thought. Now, I hadn't planned on using that type of narration box, but I think I need to because it's much big. I wound up lettering it much bigger than I thought. So again, anytime we're learning things like this, we're learning about our own methods and our own systems. And I'm learning that this lettering is a little big for this size of drawing, so I might need to rethink this size of drawing and this size of box. Right now, where's my ruled? I'm going to take my ruled lettering, I'm going to go a tiny bit smaller and see if that works. And I'm going to do my "What Big Eyes You Have, Grandmother." I'm going to probably scoot that over to the left a little bit. Now my original, can I fit it in there? I can. Let's see if I can sort of, I'm going to keep it straight. I'm going to trace it. My "What Big Eyes You Have." Just like I said, I'm going to scoot it over a little bit. There we go. Grandmother. And since the goal of this assignment was to do the lettering reasonably finished, but not the characters and stuff, I'm going to put red like that. All right, so far so good. I've always liked these squiggly tails. So now I'm going to take my ruled lines and get that third line of text in there. The better to see you with, child. This gives me a really good indication, so I think if I go the same size, it'll work. Notice this lettering's bigger than this lettering. It's sort of an accident. I'm going to have to assess later whether or not I like it, and whether or not to make that other lettering smaller. So, is this going to fit? Probably. There's my wolf looking a little bit like an alligator. I think it works right there. Although I need to fit in my so I think I need to, there we go. I think it'll work there. So we're going to put in the better to see you with, child. I went a little long on this line. I don't love it, but and now let's, again, doesn't have to be finished. Again, my wolf does look like an alligator. This is the edge of the bed. Now I've got a tiny bit of room for the which obviously is not that hard to manage. Let's take that out of the way. That'll work. And now we'll fit that into our, I don't think we need that rough again, but we do need to figure out where it's going to fit. And to my mind, it's going to fit as a box right on top of this. Let's erase these lines. And that's my version of this assignment. Doesn't look too bad. Didn't give a good word, a good tail here. I always like these, like I said, these squiggly tails. If we're going to call this finished, I should probably erase this little line here. I should probably erase this little line here. But that's pretty good. And it shows you how much thought goes into your lettering. And you will do this differently. You will do this in a way that is personal to you. You'll do it in a size that's personal to you, with the kinds of shapes and word balloons and types of lettering and stuff like that that is personal to you. And you'll learn about how to letter the way you need to letter.